value. By 75, it started breaking. Before that, and you can see that the Indian political process actually went through a paradigm shift. An emergency was, in a sense, a sort of outcome of that paradigm shift. Then, after 77, Indian politics dramatically changed. The 75 onwards, the migration pattern of Kerala changed significantly. And this is where the Land Reform Act, brought by the first communist government, and I must say that, in 69, the second EMS government actually pushed it. And it was through the work of the left forces, the land reform processes happened. And for that, the most radical thing, I would say the most radical contribution of the left political forces in Kerala was more than 300,000 people got what you call Kudigada powers. That means habitat. That means dignity. And this has changed the political process of Kerala dramatically. The land, it's not the extent of the land they got it, but 300,000 people got an identity, legal validity. And one of the, I think, the left political process right from 59 to 75 pushed this agenda. It had, we could argue about it, its pros and cons. But let us see again agriculture output. Agriculture output in Kerala has increased significantly till 75. And after that, you can see a shift in the agriculture output. And then, I am coming to the next most important thing which I consider in the political economy of Kerala. The most significant shift happened through the migration. The communities which had less land resources and productive resources became, I would call, economic refugees. They had to leave. And these communities, and largely I said those who had the advantage were Christians and Nayars, they got into the higher end of the jobs. Irawa community and Muslim community started migration only in the mid-80s in a significant way. And when it comes to 1990s, the negotiation with globalization, 2 or 3 things happened. One is those from the 4th generation or 3rd generation migrants, they got really globalized. Because they went to high end in the value chain. They went to doctors, engineers, and those, someone who come from Central Travancore, I could see this generational shift. The father was a teacher, son will become a doctor, and they will migrate anywhere in the world. So this was true. Earlier it was shift was to Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, and then to Calcutta. Truly to UK, US, wherever there is money, there was shift. And this spread happened in 90s. And there was a generational shift in the use of language. I would come later to that. But at the same time, in the mid-1980s, there was significant skill development. Because 1960s onwards, government has invested significantly into vocational education. If you 2 profession which has significantly influenced Kerala was ITI, not IIT. Industrial Training Institutes. And it has a lot to do with the oil crisis in the 70s. Oil crisis created surplus in the Gulf, which has created the construction boom, which needed semi-skilled or skilled laborers, which Kerala could supply. And that shifted what I call the more broad-based migration. So by 95, all communities started doing it. And it changed land relations dramatically. What are the things which happened? Land ceased to be a productive resources. Land was commodified. Land became a commodity. Second thing which happened, education. And this is again the sectarianism part I am coming. Among the Christians, those who had what you call early advantage, got education as a resource. So there is an investment and there is a return. So you can see in the 70s and 80s people competed in the usual school system. By 90s you had a market. All my cousins have gone to Ramaya or wherever it is, all those self-finance colleges outside. So you invest 3 lakhs or 5 lakhs in engineering and you get 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs abroad. So it was a very clean thing. So the agriculture didn't give you enough return except shifting to the rubber and the much more commercial crop. So you can see the entire agriculture pattern change. Land became commodified, seen not as a properly as a productive resources. It was become a commodity. The site of investment has changed from land to education. So you can see a whole lot of self-finance college, first in Karnataka, exclusively for this new class, and then later on here, which has created its own dynamics. So there were a group of people who had surplus cash, right, who could invest in education in their kids, which will get the return. And all of them have migrated. And this migration scenario, look at the Shastra Parishad has done with Kerala Patanam. Look at the pattern of remittance. In the 80s, Pathanamthitta had the largest foreign remittance. Within Pathanamthitta, Tiruvalla and Kumpanadu, 2-3 places, the largest remittance. Right? Then followed by Kottayam, Alapi, etc. And at that time, Malappuram and other places, Chavakkad was one belt, but not in the scene. Now the latest study shows the highest remittance is in Malappuram district, right? And Kozhikode and then Kannur. The least remittance is in Pathanamthitta district. And then you really look at the least remittance plus the fertility rate of the Christians are gone minus. What is the reason? Because this is the 5th generation, migration, right? So most of the people from Pathanamthitta, including me, have bank account, they are globalized. My bank account is in London. So, or they got urbanized. They shifted to Bangalore and other places. And there's a shift in language. Rajni Haridas kind of language come from that. That is, there is an affluent middle class was created during the globalization phenomenon. There, if you really look at it in Kerala, and this is one of the major connections which I am making, there is an affluent middle class. They talk, what you call, today I was studying the FM radio, and they are calling Tan Kanakin a fund. This affluent middle class had, land stopped being a resources, land is a commodity, a real estate, and then there is an aspiring middle class. Yeah, in Kerala you have an aspiring middle class. That is from Bajaj Chetak to Maruti 800 versus, there is an aspiring middle class who do not have economic surplus but who have economic aspirations without those. And then there is in Kerala a significant number of people are vulnerable middle class. That means they have an income level which may be from 5,000 to 20,000, but if one of the persons stop working, they are in trouble. Because they are vulnerable. They may have a house, they may have TV, they may have a cell phone, but they do not have enough to compete with the what I call the affluent. Because the advantage point of view and vantage point of view are very different. And in the consumerist style you can see that what people buy it. And then there is an aspiring poor class. In Kerala, what happened is, because of the social reform movement, because of the influence of the left movement, I said the Kudikadap, etc., social inequality in Kerala has decreased. Social inequality. Economic inequality increased. So you have a very peculiar paradox in Kerala. The economic inequality increase, social inequality decrease. Today, if you really look at the rights of a Dalit today, nobody would dare to call a Dalit by his caste name in Kerala. And if at all somebody call it, they will say it's bad. But at the same time, economic inequalities increase tremendously. So the affluent class, the largest kind of market for BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and the sedan in the class of 15 lakhs plus is Kerala. Right? And at the same time, Kerala had 89% mobile penetration. One of the highest in the country. So you have a peculiar situation. And now I will tell you, go to the sociology of the quotation gang. This outsourcing of education happened. That means, my son or daughter do not have to worry about it. The seat is booked in Ramaya or wherever it is. And then my land is a problem because I am an absentee land person, right? And it is very difficult to do it. So outsourcing started by funding local politicians who take care of my land tenure. And if it is slightly more difficult, the quotation gang. Look at the sociology of most of the quotation gang. They come from either vulnerable middle class or aspiring middle class. Because everybody, so the aspiration level, and this is where I am calling to the sectarianism, the aspiration level of young people in Kerala increased tremendously without corollary economic purchasing capacity. So you have, and this is the same time the globalization, you have created a credit market. Manappuram, this and all the finance things, Muthoot says they have 2,000 branches. You have a ready-made credit market and you don't have a purchasing capacity, but your aspiration levels are on par with the affluent people. So people started selling their land to get for their kids admission for medicine and engineering. And those who had surplus cash happened to be the church. They invested in the self-financing colleges. This was so evident, and if you see the fight against it is often there was a community link. Most of the affluent class of people come from one or two privileged communities in Kerala. But after 2005, the big story of Kerala in the last 15 years, the two communities who have got economically empowered, socially empowered, and began to ask straight questions are Iyava community and the Muslim community. And within the Muslim community, you can see two streams. Today, among the entrance test, the best performing students come from Muslim community because many of them belong to what I call aspiring middle class. And if you really look at one newspaper, again I will say that each community had a newspaper, or each those elite started a newspaper. Madhyamam was the only successful newspaper in the recent years in the whole Kerala. So the point I am saying is, there has been an assertion of two communities who have been marginalized from the hegemonic equilibrium in the first two spaces. That is 1882, 1950 and 1950 to 1975. Those people from the communities who didn't have land, the migration and the remittance and the surplus dramatically changed the land relationships. So the land was bought. So those who had the feudal land relationship was dramatically changed. And this assertion in 2005 onwards has changed the what I call Samudaya Sandulanam. What is the Sandulanam? The Sandulanam was there was an existing hegemony. If you really look at the sociology of journalists in this place, the political sociology of the background of each profession, you will see dramatic shift. And even now in the government service, who are the two communities who have a better advantage? Who are the two communities? Narendra Commission report says, otherwise also, it is Kerala, Sasatha Parishad, the Kerala Parangal says. So the paradox of it is a very interesting thing. If you really look at the total number of representation in the government, I'm coming to sectarianism. One community which was least represented is the Muslim community. Right? But when you have one minister, that becomes a huge hue and cry. Why? There is an hegemonic equilibrium. That equilibrium is in the media, the communicative space, the knowledge space, and the institutional space. Right? And these spaces are being now shifting. These spaces are being shifted. And that is why there is a new presence. Look at the new entrepreneurs in the last 10 years in Kerala. One person who every political party will listen and call and negotiate. I don't need to name Mr. Yusuf Ali. He's agreeable to all. Now look at their sociology. It is through the migration. Look at to the political sociology of the new minister, who was an NRI, who came, who negotiated with both sects. So this migration has dramatically changed land relationship, language, taste of food, taste of habitation, the urbanization process. And this with the confident group. For instance, you really look at a party like Kerala Congress, which has come in the 1950s with the support of the nexus of what you call two major communities, right? You look at the political leadership, all of them come from semi-feudal background, huge access to land. You look at anybody, talk. But their people came from subsistence economy, people had less land. But the same people had less land now have more money, more resources. They don't need a party to represent them anymore because they have a capital power. My concluding remark is three. One is access to land, early advantage of access to land through the policies created surplus and comparative advantage for few communities, which has created access to early education and comparative advantage. This helped them to negotiate with the market in a much more effective way and to create surplus. And this also created in Kerala a hegemonic equilibrium across all political parties. Look at the leadership of all political parties in the last, 60 years. And it has created a hegemony which was in the media, in the institutional framework, in the governance framework. But with the migration process and the market working, this equilibrium is being shifted. Hence, a new sectarianism is coming. But in this new sectarianism, one more point, let me talk about it. It is the globalization has changed religion dramatically. Today, religion itself has been corporatized and marketized. All institutions got corporatized and marketized. So if you really post-90s, whether it is Amrita or KPONN or, within, I don't want to name, within Islam, all of them have corporate structures with resources, money, and all of them are evident on the television. Those of you know Peace Television, right? Dr. Naik. All of them are very aggressive marketing on the television. So the visibility of an aggressive religion has increased without a social transformation on the ground. That is one. Second thing is migration changed the socialization pattern of everybody, Malayalis. For instance, most of the time when I live in Norway, I noticed it. Because depending on the speech community, you go to that church. And this is the negative conservatism. So if you are a Christian who belong to Orthodox Church, you more or less go to the same church, only interact with those people. Right? So your mindset is primarily driven by that. Or you go to that particular mosque. Or you go to that particular NHS. Because your spaces for interaction is changed. Earlier we had, marketplace. There much more in the civil society, there was much more interactive space. The very habitation of Kerala, your neighbor would be, you look at a neighbor in the 1 square kilometer, every caste, creed and region was there. So you could not avoid. The globalization space, the individuation has increased. Individuation has created insecurity. Insecurity has created a new, insecurity and alienation has created a new market for religion. And those religions, so as a result what happened is, Bangladesh the same happened. The Muslim community went to Saudi Arabia and others, they come out with much more regressive practices. Wahhabism has incorporated. Christians who went to America, they never met any other people. They talk black as black. They never interact with, I know families who never interacted with any others. So this sectarianism was also created. The third aspect is along with the neoliberal economic policies of the 80s, which Thatcher and Reagan did, neoconservative politics. Actually, neoliberalism was an economic policy choice which was accompanied by a neoconservative politics. And that neoconservative politics which started on Reagan in a big way after liberal politics of Jimmy Carter has accentuated to such an extent in the period of Bush too. And you can see that, every day he has to read Bible and go to the place. So you have that, and neoconservative politics along with neoliberalism created this backlash in many of the Islamic countries. And within the Islamic countries also, there is a new fundamentalism, a neoconservative politics started happening. And the exposure of the migrants, as I said, migration has changed the relationship, but also migration and has brought back so many of the conservative value. And this conservative value has a lot to do with the changing socialization pattern. As a result, today in Kerala, you have your children going to school by car. You don't talk to anybody. You talk to the same class of people. You come back. Earlier we all used to walk with everybody. And your holidays, you are with the small nuclear families, become post-nuclear. So you have made three shifts from a joint family system to a nuclear family system to a post-nuclear family. Post-nuclear family is, now family is an imagined community who is on Skype or on connection. He must be speaking to his son in US on Skype. I was seeing 80-year-old mother talking to her son on Skype every day. So you have an imagined community. So as a result, individuation happened. In the individuation and insecurity, the biggest fallback mechanism is not ideology, but identity. And people fall back with identity. Because if there is an NSS Karayogam in New York, and I've seen it, they will make it a point to go to NSS Karayogam in New York. If Christians don't even go beyond the denomination. And this has created what you call a new conservatism among the immigrants. So you have a new conservative sect with more money coming and investing in the places, including in the self-finance colleges, etc., where the aspiring middle class, and most of them happen to be mostly from Irava Muslim communities and Dalits, and Adivasis are not even in the whole equilibrium anywhere. Aspiring communities got what we call a discontent. So while the social inequality of Kerala has decreased, the economic inequality of Kerala has increased. While the migration has changed the land relationship and the progressive trends in Kerala, migration also created what I call a cumulative conservatism and new fundamentalism here, which in turn got marketized, which competing in the television channel. And with the television, invent of television, the pattern of film production has changed. You look at the salary of people. So most of the television journalists are from the aspiring middle class. So there is a big shift in Kerala which is happening. And that is being reflected in the political process of Kerala. So I would sum up saying that in the last 100 years, Kerala has gone through a cycle of negotiating with the modernism, social reform within the communities, the passionate love with the nationhood, then a new surge of the migration and the globalization of labor, which has created new aspirations without adequate capacity to meet the aspiration, which in turn created the new credit market, which has created its own frustration in Kerala. As a result, a community of people, individuals, who are alienated from themselves, who are alienated from the land, if I use the Marxist sort of thing, they are alienated from the productive resources, they are alienated from the creative resources, and they are not being able to meet the aspiration. The biggest consumption of alcohol is not a wonder. So you have the biggest consumption of alcohol, and then the second is gold, the status symbol, high consumerism, because the surplus people now invest in gold. not land, because Kerala doesn't have more land. So when land is not there, I invest in gold. And the third is, because of the semi-feudal setup, so Kerala has shifted, but we have the semi-feudal setup. We invest in huge houses. In Pathanamthitta district alone, there must be around 10,000 houses which are not occupied, which is dead land, because it is the aspiration level. Because when you go to Gulf or America, your first thing was, I didn't have the land. My father had to do it, so I buy the land. Second thing is, Panda Ane status symbol. Now it is a Mercedes Benz or BMW. You may not use it, but a BMW on the porch looks nice. And look at all the people who BMW made. All of them in one generation shifted from what I call lower middle class or vulnerable middle class to the affluent class. Actually, the rich affluent class, earlier feudal class, are now much more austere because they also know that they lost it. This shift, that is the next door neighbor had a BMW, I have only a cycle or a Maruti 800. I have a grudge. I have a discontent. So if any political leader go and bulldoze the building in Muna, I feel happy. Right? I feel happy about it because there is a discontent in Kerala. And that discontent is not being captured. And that discontent is getting into different formulations in the political process, social sphere and education. I would say that Kerala needs to be invested, we need to invest in a new generation. We need to invest in people who can think beyond being a Muslim, think beyond being a Nair, think beyond being an Irava, think beyond being a Christian. It is absolutely important. This society otherwise will stagnate. We need to reinvent the spirit of Narayana Guru. We need to reinvent the spirit of Vakkom Moulavi. We need to reinvent the spirit of Dr. Palpu. We need to invent the spirit of the people who transform in 21st century. The things which we have started come a full circle. Kerala society is like a stagnant water. ഒരുപാട് കൂത്താടി കൂട്ടങ്ങൾ വളരുന്ന ഒരു stagnant water ആണ്. ഇതിനെ ഒഴുക്കി വിടാൻ വേണ്ടി we all have to do it. Last 1 week I was listening to the media here. It was the most depressing moment. It was the most depressing moment. And I often wonder why the political leaders of the Congress or the left do not have the moral authority to stand up and say that Kerala belongs to every citizen. The habitat of this place is so dense, no community can take predominance over others. The history of this state is so unique. This is one state, two major religions came by trade, Christianity and Islam. And wherever religion by way trade, it was acculturation. So this new sectarianism, which had a political economy angle, needs to be changed. For that, I would say that Kerala needs policy formulation to decrease the, what I call, economic inequality. The increasing in economic inequality with this caste and community connotation will create more discontent in Kerala. Second thing is, Kerala needs a new social reform movement beyond all political parties, right? To ensure people work beyond and think beyond religion of their birth and caste. The third thing which we need is Kerala need a new social contract in terms of governance, in terms of process, and to understand the change which is happening. Thank you very much.